Let's make it simple this year in fantasy football. Let's draft running backs that score a ton of fantasy points. Much easier said than done, but today I have 5 must-draft running backs in 2025 fantasy football. Let's hop right into it. First guy I'm trying to get in all of my drafts, Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. Last season, we had him as one of our favorite running back sleepers. This year, he's not a sleeper, but we're still trying to get him on our fantasy teams. He's going off the board as RB11 in PPR scoring, and this is where Chase Brown really makes his money in the passing game. Last season, the 6th most receptions at the running back position, and that was while still playing behind Zach Moss early in the year. Once Zach Moss goes down for the season, we saw Chase Brown emerge as a dominant league-winning running back in fantasy football. And I don't think just because Zach Moss is back in Cincinnati healthy, it's going to take away from Chase Brown's workload. Zach Moss had the lowest yards per carry mark of his entire career last year. We know Zach Moss isn't a great running back. He's just kind of a guy in the NFL. So I don't see why, after what Chase Brown was able to do at the end of last season, Zach Moss would step into a serious role for this team. The only other move the Bengals make, they bring back Samaje Perine, but Perine couldn't even get on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs when they lost Pacheco to a grueling leg injury for a majority of the year. If the only running backs on your roster are aging Kareem Hunt and Carson Steele, and you still can't get on the field much, I'm not worried about Samaje Perine back in this offense. Chase Brown's floor is going to be so high on a week-to-week basis with that receiving workload. The 5th most receptions last season. We know how prolific this Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to be, moving up and down the field at will with Joe Burrow. Now, I don't expect this Bengals defense to be much improved this year. We know one of the worst units in the entire league. So if they're going to be having to outscore their opponents, I really want to be targeting Chase Brown in this receiving role in this backfield. But it's not even just through the receiving game. Last year, he was top 12 in red zone touches, getting the ball in the money area of the field. A guy who's shown in college he can handle a workload. By the end of the season, he was on the field for 80 to 90% of the snaps for the Bengals. With a high floor from the receptions, for a guy who's shown he can be an elusive back, not just a guy relying on the workload. He was top 20 in elusive rating and top 10 in evaded tackles last year. So he has the ability to make guys miss to go along with that high workload. If this efficiency can continue for Brown, I don't see how he doesn't pay off in fantasy football. He's a cheaper Devon Achane. You're getting him 2 rounds later than Achane. I still like drafting him from the Dolphins, but there are some question marks with that offense. But we know what this Cincinnati Bengals team is going to be. They are going to be dominant on the offensive side of the ball. And Chase Brown, I just am not worried about Zach Moss with what we saw from him last season. Chase Brown, from week 6 till week 18, he was the number 7 running back in fantasy football, averaging 18 PPR points per game. If I'm getting that around pick 30 in my drafts at RB11, I'm signing up for that 10 out of 10 times. And I'm not too worried about the competing backs on this team with Samaje Perine, Zach Moss, and rookie Taj Brooks. If I wait to draft running back until the 3rd round and I get Chase Brown as my RB1, to pair with 2 elite wide receivers, I am in love with that start in fantasy football drafts in 2025, especially when we consider the upgrades on the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals and the fact that Chase Brown's going to be facing the 10th easiest strength of schedule for the running back position this upcoming season. Next guy I'm trying to acquire in most of my fantasy football drafts is Alvin Kamara for the New Orleans Saints. Now, do not be scared away by this potentially horrific New Orleans Saints offense. Alvin Kamara can pretty much be quarterback proof given the reliance this Saints team has on Kamara in the passing game. Let's not forget, last year the New Orleans Saints, not very good on offense. Alvin Kamara still finished RB6 on a points per game basis. So we saw it last year. On a terrible team, he still finishes as RB6. Now this year he's going as RB19. A massive discount for Alvin Kamara, who had the 2nd most receptions at the running back position in the league, only behind Devon Achane. So another guy whose floor is so high, given all the receptions, and I think Alvin Kamara is poised to have a great year on the ground, given the fact that he's the only guy in this backfield the Saints can really trust. I mean, they signed a late-round running back. The fact of the matter is, this team relies on Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill in the red zone, with Taysom Hill suffering a potentially knee injury, keeping him out a majority of the season. Alvin Kamara is the only guy they really can trust on this team going into the start of the season. I think that red zone role that Taysom's had the past few seasons is something Kamara is going to adopt this year. While this offensive line hasn't been graded as one of the better units, Let's not forget, this team is littered with first-round picks on the O-line. Past 2 drafts, they get 2 bookend tackles in the first round. This year, Calvin Banks from Texas, he's inserted as their left tackle this upcoming season. At guard, Trevor Penning shifts from right tackle to left guard, where he's one of the worst tackles in the league, but he profiles as a much better interior offensive lineman. Eric McCoy was graded as the #1 center in the National Football League, and Cesar Ruiz at right guard. So there's 4 first-round picks and the #1 graded center in the National Football League on this offensive line. While the quarterback has some question marks, Kamara, with that receiving role, he's going to deliver in fantasy as RB19. Let's not forget, Alvin Kamara has literally never finished below RB13 on a points per game basis in his entire career, yet you're drafting him at RB19 this year. Make that make sense to me with an upgraded offensive line in a red zone role that is cemented in Kamara's back pocket. I mean, he missed the final 3 games of the year, and he still had the second most receptions for running backs. To go along with all of this, the Saints do face the 7th easiest strength of schedule for the running back position. So Kamara's in a great spot to smash with a decent offensive line, looking to improve yet again with a high floor in that receiving game. I don't think we could be passing on Kamara in PPR, half PPR, you name it. The floor is so high. The track record for Kamara always being a top 12 running back his entire career. Now you're getting him at RB19. Do not pass up on Alvin Kamara this year in fantasy. Our number 3 guy, DeAndre Swift. Now, this is the guy where I hear everybody say, I'm not drafting DeAndre Swift. I'm tired of believing this guy is going to be something in fantasy. While DeAndre Swift hasn't been a league winner by any stretch of the imagination, he's been a solid running back every year of his career. People may not realize DeAndre Swift has never finished outside the top 24 running backs on a points per game basis. This dude is about as consistent as it gets. The ceiling might not be incredibly high for Swift, but this guy's just not going to lose you your league. You draft DeAndre Swift, you know you're getting a solid running back too. Finished around running back 22 last season, and this was in the worst offense in the entire National Football League. A lot of people think the Chicago Bears offense is going to be much improved with Ben Johnson coming over, with Caleb Williams in year 2, with the offensive weapons they have, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Loveland at tight end. I mean, this offense is poised to break out this upcoming season. Last year, like we said, literally the worst offense in the league. DeAndre Swift is still a top 24 running back. Now, his ADP is at RB24, which he's never finished below. I think people have been burned on Swift before, thinking they were getting a top 10 running back. He finishes right around RB18 to 24 every year, so they're disappointed. But this guy is about as consistent as it gets. He had the 14th most receptions for running backs last year, and he actually had 3 rushing touchdowns of 35-plus yards. Only 2 running backs had more than that, Saquon Barkley and James Cook. So not many more running backs have shown they have that breakaway run ability like DeAndre Swift has shown in his past. I'm not going to overthink this. If I need a running back too, I think DeAndre Swift is a guy I know I can rely on that's not going to disappoint me in fantasy this year. The Bears actually do have some upgraded pieces on the offensive line, something that's held them back in previous seasons. This year, some sites are projecting the Bears to have a top 10 offensive line. So it just seems every part on this offense is looking to be better in this upcoming season. So why wouldn't I draft DeAndre Swift at the lowest ADP he's had in his entire career when he's literally never been below this mark? DeAndre Swift, I know a lot of people aren't going to love it. I will be drafting him this year. Isiah Pacheco is my next running back. This is the one I feel least confident in. Pacheco, guy who suffered a brutal leg injury early in 2024, kept him out for a majority of the season. And when he came back from that injury, he just did not look the same. I don't want to hold that production against him this upcoming year. But for a guy being drafted as RB29, as a RB3 on a explosive Kansas City offense potentially with all the upgrades they have coming. In 2023, when this guy was healthy, he finishes RB14 on a points per game basis. And last season in the 2-game sample before he was injured, he was on pace to be RB16. So I think this guy has a ceiling that if this Mahomes-led offense gets rolling, which I think might happen this year, with Xavier Worthy breaking out, with Rashee Rice coming back from injury. Hollywood Brown is supposedly healthy this year. Still have Travis Kelce. If Mahomes leads a top 5 offense in the National Football League and Pacheco is healthy, this guy is going to pay massive dividends for you with where you're getting him in drafts at RB29. It's just all a matter of how healthy is he. The reports out of camp are saying he looks healthy, but you can't really believe what they're saying before we get to real training camp. And for the real running back competition behind him, Kareem Hunt. I mean, we've seen the last 3 seasons have been his lowest yards per carry marks of his entire career. He's just not the same running back. Guy looked like dust at the end of the season. So if Isiah Pacheco is healthy, he's going to outperform Kareem Hunt by a large margin. If I'm betting on this Kansas City offense to be prolific like they've shown in the past, I think Pacheco at RB29, he is worth a swing late in drafts as a potential low-end RB1 if he's able to stay healthy for the full season. Last running back I am looking to target this season is Kaleb Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it's not a sexy pick by any means. It's just a volume play. We've seen Najee Harris dominate this role, getting an enormous amount of carries each and every season. Last year, he finished with the 7th most rushing attempts in the National Football League. We know Najee, not the most elusive guy, hasn't been efficient by any means in his career, and he was still being fed the ball nonstop for the Steelers offense. But clearly, the Steelers willing to let Najee Harris walk. He goes to Los Angeles. They draft Kaleb Johnson, who was very effective at Iowa in his career there, averaging 6 yards a carry last season. I mean, this guy's shown he's a big power back. He's going to have the goal line role over Jaylen Warren. People worried about Jaylen Warren taking over as RB1. Let's pump the brakes on that. Jaylen Warren was RB38 last year on a points per game basis. He's never sniffed a top 24 running back finish, so Jaylen Warren does not concern me. So long as Kaleb Johnson has this red zone role, which he will given the profile he has, he's a massive back. He's going to dominate the red zone, and he's going to eat up these short yardage carries. If he's fed like Najee Harris was, I think you're getting a steal. He's going cheaper than all these other rookie running backs, and he probably is in line for the biggest opportunity to take carries outside of Ashton Genty. Jaylen Warren is not going to be eating a considerable amount of volume. He's going to work in the passing game for Aaron Rodgers. But I think Kaleb Johnson, in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, who had the second highest dump-off rate last year, he's checking down left and right to Breece Hall. Breece Hall actually had the 4th most receptions in the NFL. If he's able to have any sort of a resemblance of that role for this Pittsburgh Steelers team in the passing game, this guy's going to be a great running back in fantasy. We know that Steelers defense is going to be electric. They're going to give the ball to this offense and hand the ball off to Kaleb Johnson a lot this upcoming season. So I will take some cheap volume in my RB2 slot where you're getting Kaleb Johnson in drafts. I do like that opportunity, especially with the only competition, Jaylen Warren, like we said, never been a top 24 guy. He's not really going to be a volume back for Pittsburgh. So give me Kaleb Johnson with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for a potentially an upgraded Steelers offense in 2025. But those are our must-draft running backs this upcoming season. I love getting them where they're going in ADP. That's the key thing. I love their ADP. If they slide up draft boards, maybe we pump the brakes. But currently, I love where they're going. We started with Chase Brown in the 3rd round, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, Isiah Pacheco, and Kaleb Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know what you think of these 5 running backs that I am targeting in my drafts. If you agree or disagree, leave it in the comment section. Let me know. Like and subscribe if you want to see more fantasy football content. But that's going to do it here. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you guys next time with another episode of the Fantasy Birds.